typically on the top 10 sessions, there's a lot of questions, and I want to make sure that there's time for those. So first of all, hello, everybody. Thank you for giving us a piece of your Thursday. Really appreciate it. Today's a very interesting webinar for us. It's I think the first time in a while that we've done sort of a top 10, which is a great way to show a lot of different tips and a lot of different tricks within a short amount of time. So very excited to be doing this webinar today. My name is John Posan. I'm going to be one of your co-hosts with me for today. I also have Jason, who is a 20-year user of GP?
Yeah, I started using it when I was 4.
Yeah, right. And we also have Sam with us as well, who's been using GP for quite a while. He's going to be showing the 10 tips today. So a couple of housekeeping items just before we get started. First of all, we cannot hear you. So if you need our attention or if you have a question, just write the question in the little box that says questions. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen, I believe. And we're going to come back to all the questions at the end. So the agenda for today is really short and sweet across the board. We're going to show a very quick PowerPoint. It's going to explain a little bit about who we are and what we do. That may be old news to many of you, as I know quite a few of our current customers are on this session. And some of you may not know who we are if you're first time joining our webinars. Most of the time, of course, is going to be spent in the top 10 tips. Each tip is going to take about a minute or two per tip. And we're trying to focus on sort of the tips that most of you probably haven't seen or won't know about, and some of them you may have seen, but again, it's only a minute or two long, so we'll be on to the next one. We also wanted to talk a little bit about a future event. I'm not going to blow that now, but we have an event at the end of the month that we're co-hosting with E1. So for those of you who are using SmartList Builder or any of the other E1 products, you're definitely going to want to hear what that's all about, so stick around. And then at the end, of course, questions and giveaways. And yes, we do giveaways at the end as a way of sort of hoping everybody stays on till the end. So hang around, and we'll be giving away a bunch of gift cards towards the end of the session. Okay, so who are we? So the first thing that you're going to notice if you're from Toronto is that's the Madison building, which is at Yonge and Sheppard in Toronto. So we are Canadians. We've been focusing on GP for pretty much since it came out, close to 20 years now. Very passionate about the product. We live and breathe it. It's all over our walls here. As sad as that may be, we really do love the product. So we're a Dynamics GP partner. Typically what a partner does is, everything from upgrading, your current version to a new version, rolling out new functions or features, as well as just being there to support you. So we are that typical partner. The one sort of cool thing that you're going to see on the right is we've actually launched a product called GP365, which is a completely hosted version of Dynamics GP. A lot of our customers were asking for a cloud version that's always on the latest version, doesn't cost any money for upgrades. So that's why we created that product. We're not going to talk about that today, but if you have interest, let me know. You can reach me at info, so info at GP365, and we'll have our email address on at the end as well. But that's what we're all about. And, if any of you are coming across an issue or something, an annoyance, let us know. We're happy to help you out. We're not going to, force you to commit to anything or anything like that. So let us know, and we'll go from there. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Sam, who is a GP guru. No pressure, Sam, who's going to be running through a variety of tips. And if we lose anybody, I'll be watching the questions, so feel free to put them there, and I'll interrupt if I think it's needed. Otherwise, we'll get to your questions at the end. So Sam, take it away. Break a leg.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And hello, everyone. As John mentioned earlier, I'm Sam. I'm actually very excited to show you these top 10 tips. So I'm gonna go a little bit away from PowerPoint. I know John likes it, but I like GP, so we're gonna jump right into it. So the first tip that we have is is the ability to turn off those pesky pop-up reports that you get every time you post a transaction. And one thing before I continue, we will actually have another slide at the end of it, which summarizes or gives you a list of the 10 tips that we do cover. So if you feel like, if you're rushing or if you miss something, don't worry, you'll have that at the end. All right, so first things first, turning off those pop-up reports when you're posting transactions within GP. So I think this is something that a lot of users experience on a day-to-day basis, and it's something that can really slow us down. So a lot of the veterans that are out there, I'm sure they found a way around it, and this is one of those tips. So GP actually allows you to turn off those notifications whenever you do post those transactions. So to do that, we're going to go to the Microsoft Dynamics GP dropdown here. From here, we're going to select Tools. We're going to go to Setup, Posting, and Posting. So depending on which transaction or which series that you want to turn off those notifications for, you can select that from the series. So for this example, I'm going to do it for the purchasing series. So I'm going to select Purchasing. In the Origins dropdown, I'm going to select the screen or the window, that I'm going to turn this off for. So I want to turn this off for the Payables Transaction Entry screen. And as soon as I select that, you'll see at the bottom here, these are the various reports that usually populate when you post a transaction. So to mark it or to unmark them all, you can simply use these buttons here. So if you do mark all, what that will do is it'll have those pop-ups every time you are posting a transaction. But if I unmark it, none of these pop-ups will appear when I do those transactions. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And another thing you'll notice is you have these 4 little icons here. So what do these 4 icons mean? So the question mark essentially is just a way for the system to ask you or to prompt you to say, hey, what do you want to do with this report? Then the next icon we have is a monitor, which basically means that it's going to come on. Do you want to see the report on the screen? Then we have the printer, and then we have the file location. So this is where you can tell where the file can be stored. So for example, if you had a specific place on your server where you were storing the files, you can enter that path at the bottom here. So let's just go ahead and put something here. Now, of course, if I was to actually enable it and set it to file, it wouldn't really go to this because we don't actually have a server, but this is where your IT department could essentially come in and set this up so that they have a path for your documents which are stored. And one more key thing that you should be aware of when you are here, just make sure you're not accidentally touching on any of this information, because this is what determines where the postings go, like for your GL. So if you adjust it, it can be quite a little bit of a thing. So for that, just make sure you're only doing this, and once you're done, go ahead and hit save. And next time I do, so see, it's asking me to prompt for a type. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to hit save, and it saves the changes for us. All right. So that is how you would turn off postings with the posting transactions within GP. So I think Jason actually wanted to talk about the disaster recovery option as well. So I'm going to let him go around that.
Thanks, Sam. So with that option turned on, if you go back to look at it, and where Sam was populating the file name. So an interesting use case for this, if you get your IT people to set up a share on a server that's not the GP server or some other server, it can actually serve as sort of a backup for disaster recovery purposes. So what you can do is you can have these reports run automatically in the background. So they'll stop prompting you. You won't get any prompts. And in fact, you won't even know that anything's happening. But in the background, every time you post, it will actually create these reports and save them as a comma-separated file or a text file on a server of your choice. And what that will allow you to do is if there's ever a time where the GP server is completely lost and you can't get your backups or whatever, at least you'll have this paper trail for all of the transactions that have been posted in the system. It's obviously not an ideal scenario, but in a disaster, we take what we can get. So it's an interesting use case, and we've actually implemented that for quite a few clients. If anybody on the call is interested in that, obviously just reach out to us and we can help you get through that.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, so that is essentially tip number 1. So now moving along, we're going to go to tip number 2, and that is to gain access to key information with homepage reminders. So you can see over here, we have a couple of reminders here, and you can set up these reminders here, so essentially you can jump right into the action. So what this will allow you to do, for example, over here, I have customers over credit limit. If I click in this, I can see the customers which have gone over the credit limit, and this is essentially a reminder that we've already created. So let's go ahead and create one of our own reminders. So to do that, what we're going to do is, again, we're going to go to the Microsoft Dynamics GP dropdown. We're going to select Smart List, and from there, for this one, let's create a reminder for any vendors who may be on hold. So to do that, I'm going to expand the section for purchasing, and then additionally the section for vendors. And I'll find this report here, this view here, sorry, which is the vendor on hold. And I'm going to save this as a reminder. So to do that, once you've got the report that you want to create, simply go ahead and hit the favorites button. In the pop-up, you can give it a name. So I'll just call this one vendors on hold, and I want this to be visible to my company. And at the bottom here, there's a little drop down for add. So if I go and click this drop down, you can add it to your favorites as well as your reminders. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, let me try another name. Giving it a very unique name. All right. And then if you go back into, and then this is just letting me know, like, how do you want the records to be displayed? So I want it to display records which are greater than 0. Number of records is greater than 0. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it's going to create the it's going to create the reminder for us. If I go ahead and close this and go back here and hit refresh, you can see we have the vendors on hold, and we can jump right into it. Now, obviously, if you have your own custom views or own smart list, you can create these reminders for those as well. Just for the purpose of this example, I'm just using this report. I'm just using this report to show the reminders. All right.
Yeah, and it can be actually combined with, just to expand a little bit, it can be used for all kinds of things. So if you combine this with Smart List Designer or even better, Smart List Builder, you can sort of imagine in your heads how you could leverage this functionality. Some examples that we've seen, you can have it trigger if a bank account falls below a certain balance, or if a vendor invoice is over a certain amount. Some other ones that we've seen are, to find out if there's any missing timesheets for people that are using project accounting. So it's a really powerful tool, and it sort of can act as an alert system, and that's really what it's intended for.
Yep, and as I mentioned earlier, it is all about efficiency here. So just kind of moving along with tip number 2. Tip number 3 is more or less the same thing, where you jump right into the action. And tip number 3 is to speed up the access to quick links. So to create a quick links, we're just going to go ahead and click on the edit button on the home menu here. So we already have a few quick links, but let's go ahead and create a new one. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit here. And from here, what I will do is from this window, I'll go ahead and hit add. And two of the most popular things that you can add from this window are the Microsoft Dynamics GP window or an external programmer file. These are the two things that we find a lot of the clients are using. But for the purpose of this example, we're just going to go ahead and add a GP window. So let's say, for example, if you were a AP clerk and you were entering transactions on a daily basis, instead of having to go to the purchasing series and then right from there, under transactions, choosing the screen, you can jump right into it just by using a quick link. So I'm going to go ahead and expand the section so I'm going to go to the transaction side. I'm going to expand the section for purchasing, and I'm going to find transaction entry, which is right here. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you'll see that it's added right at the bottom here. Now from here, you have the option of moving it up and down. So do you want this to be the first quick link that you see when you're on the home tab, or the last, and so on and so forth. So I can go ahead and just move this up, and I'll make this one number 1. So this is the most important one for me if I was working as a AP clerk. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And when I'm over here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit refresh. And we can see at the bottom here for quick links, we've got transaction entry. So if I go ahead and click it, it's going to jump me right into the actions. I can go ahead and just pick up from where I left off. So this is a faster way of getting access to information. So you don't have to slow down and kind of, go from there. All right. So keeping up with this theme, the next thing we have is keyboard shortcuts. Now that I have the payable transaction entry open, maybe I want to, start moving along the system a lot faster. There's a lot of keyboard shortcuts, and given the time limitation, we're not going to necessarily go into every single one of them, but I'll go ahead and cover up some of the more important ones. So, of course, you can hit tab to kind of go from one field to another. So I'll go ahead and type a description, test, and any field which you have where there is this lookup icon, you can actually hold Control and press L on your keyboard. So if I do that, it's going to look up that for me. So I'm not really adding a batch, so I won't do that. And I'll hit tab, so on and so forth. So if I go to vendor again, if I do Control L, I can find the vendor. And then from here, I can just type in, let's say I was looking for Visa or Vista Travels and so on and so forth. And then from here, of course, I can move on a lot faster. Again, just by hitting tab on my keyboard, I'm moving from one field to another. All right. Yeah, so
I can't tell you how much of a time saver this will be for a data entry clerk. The truth of the matter is, if you're doing a lot of data entry, the time that takes for you to lift your hand off the keyboard, grab the mouse, hover over something, and click actually adds up. When I'm doing transactions in GP, I'd never touch my mouse. I always use the keyboard shortcuts. And I can tell you, people like standing behind me they just see windows popping up and flashing. They're like, "How are you working so fast?" And it's all because once you learn them, they're very, very useful. And the three I think that you're covering, Sam, are lookup, which is Control L. It's hard to demonstrate this on a webinar since you can't see our keyboards, but so lookup is Control and L at the same time. And then save is Alt and S, and I think post is Alt and P. If that's correct, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So with those three in combination, you shouldn't actually need to touch your mouse most of the time, and it really does save. So if you're doing a lot of data entry, I would certainly take the time to learn those. It's a bit of a habit breaker to get out of the habit of using the mouse, but once you do, you'll be very glad you did break the habit.
Yeah. Exactly, and just kind of keeping up with that theme, I'll actually show you how I'm going to delete this without even touching my mouse. So again, I'm just going to hold Alt and T on my keyboard, and I can go ahead and delete this. All right. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the ability to copy and paste from an Excel file. So if you have an Excel file formatted in a particular in a particular manner, you can actually copy the transactions directly from the Excel file and post it into GP. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. So we're going to go into financials, under the financial series here, under the transaction section. I'm going to go to general. From here, I'm just going to go ahead and type in all the information. Yes, everything looks good. I'm just going to type in a reference. So we'll call this copying and pasting. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my Excel file that I'm going to use. So let me go ahead and bring that up. Here we go. So if your Excel file is formatted in a certain way, you can simply copy this information and paste it directly into GP. So this is all of, of course, you can add as many lines as you want, but for the purpose of the example, I've just added 2 lines. So I've got a debit and a credit. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. And once you've copied it, go back into GP and make sure your cursor's at the account section here, and simply go ahead and hit paste, and it's going to paste that transaction for you. So it's very helpful in having, it basically helps you bypass, making those error entries, because you can enter everything in Excel, because a lot of us are more used to entering in Excel, and it's a lot faster. And you just simply come into GP, and then you can go ahead and post. And again, because we've learned shortcut keyboards, and I'm going to go ahead and post it. So Alt P is going to post this for me. There we go. And if I close the screen, I get the pop-up for the screens. All right. So you can use this copy and paste functionality to basically enter a lot of the information in a lot faster, and as opposed to having to go into the multiple fields and going in that way. All right, so that's tip number 5. Tip number 6 is to create reports that you can run repeatedly with the same filters. So if you have certain reports that you run, let's say monthly, weekly, or even daily, and you make certain changes to it, but you want those changes to stick, you can actually set that up and have those reports run every time you log in, every time you are running those reports. So let's go ahead and create one of those reports. So we're going to go ahead and while we're in the financial series, I'm just going to go ahead and create a trial balance here. I'm going to bring up this report. So we have this demo report, which has, of course, its own parameters. We're going to go ahead and create a new one. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add. I'm going to give it a name. So let's go ahead and call this one my name, and this is for the month of March, fiscal year 2018. This includes posting accounts. Yeah, everything's okay here, current year. And I can also add my parameters at the bottom here. So I want this to show all the information from the start let's say the beginning of month till the current date. So this way, anytime I run this report, it'll run the information from the beginning of the month just to the current date that I'm running it as of. So I'm going to go ahead and click insert. And once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now, as soon as I hit save, it's going to appear in my list every time I go to create a report. Now, of course, you can go ahead and just simply run this report. Alternatively, what you can also do is you can add this to your reports. So every time you go to the home tab, you'll actually see this report. So to do that, simply go ahead and click my report. It's going to ask you to give it a name. I'm okay with this one, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And if I close this and I go back to my home tab here, I can see at the bottom here, I've created the two reports here. So I've got my detailed AA, the report that I created. I'm going to go and click it, and it's going to jump right into it. And using my parameters, it's going to run this report over and over again. So we can see that it's running it for the current month. And this is all the information for the report. All right, so this is, again, a faster way to get information as opposed to having to go back in and define your parameters over and over again. All right. So the next tip that we're going to talk about, and I think this is something that that might surprise a lot of people, is an easy way to enter dates in any of the windows that you're entering information for. So I'm going to go ahead and create. I'm going to go ahead and open up a screen where we're going to enter it. So let's go to the sales section this time because we've been working in financial. Let's go ahead and enter an invoice. Okay. Yeah, everything's okay. Perfect. Now I'm in the date section. Now let's say I wanted to future date this. So maybe this is going to be for tomorrow as opposed to being the date that's currently here. If I actually hit the plus sign on my keyboard, it's going to count up the dates. You'll see it'll go from 12 to 13. And if I do the minus sign on my keyboard, it's going to count backwards. And of course, you can keep doing this as much as you like. Alternatively, what you can do is if I just type in just the date, so let's just say it was doing April, I want it to be on the 20th. If I just type 20, it's going to change that to April 20. And if I type in 05, let's say 25, it'll count to the next month, but you'll notice the year remains the same. Now, of course, if, a lot of the time when when the years change, sometimes it's not that easy to kind of remember, hey, you always have to remind yourself, hey, remember, this is no longer 2017, it's 2018, you got to put that year in. So if the system is smart enough to recognize what year it is, so if I type in, let's say, 01 or 04, 02, 2018, if I hit tab, and I come back here, and I just type in, let's say, 21, it's going to know it's for the month of April, the 21st day of April, and the year 2018. All right, so it's an easy way to kind of use it to your advantage.
I'm going to go ahead and admit that I did not know about the plus and minus. So that was something that I just learned from this webinar. But I am very surprised, especially with data entry people, how often I see them typing the entire date and every time, and including the 20. So it's very common that you'll see people type, for today's date, it would be 0308 and 2018, and they type that whole thing in. The reality is it remembers what month you typed in last, and it will always keep using it. So if you just type 2 digits, it's going to assume it's in the same month but a different day. And if you type in 4 digits, it's going to assume it's a new month and date but same year. So whatever year you used last, it will continue to use. The other one that people seem to miss a lot is or get stuck on is the fields where you're entering numbers or currencies where they have decimal places. So I see a lot of people struggle with this because GP kind of is pre-formatting the number for you as you're typing it. So I see a lot of people will type, if they want 1,000, they'll type 100000. If you press the decimal key, it automatically advances to the decimal. So it's going to save you some time there as well. So that's just a little bonus tip for everybody. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Sam.
No problem. But hey, I'm at least glad that somebody found the plus and minus sign useful. So I knew I was going to get somebody. All right. So the next tip is the fixing for autocomplete error. So let's say you're entering something and obviously, you make a mistake or something. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of this one first. So again, using my keyboard shortcut, Alt-C, I'm going to delete this. It's just faster. All right. So let's go to the financial series. And let's say we were entering some data and then we made a mistake in entering something. So maybe we were in in batches, for example, and we were entering a batch ID. So maybe we were going to type March 2018, and we ended up making mistakes. So you can see we already have a couple of entries here. So you can see I've tried a couple of times, and I have terrible keyboard writing skills because I've spelled March 3 different ways, and one of them is correct. And essentially, if you want to get rid of these mistakes and basically hide those mistakes so nobody sees how bad you are at spelling, you can simply right-click on the option here and remove from list. So this way, it'll no longer appear. So if I was to close this, type in March again, I no longer have that other entry where I'm spelling it wrong. So I can see here, I'm, again, very bad at typing, and I still have that second option. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one as well, just kind of hiding our mistakes. And then we have March right here. So again, if I was to type in March, I know how to spell this time. To at least the person who's entering this was like, okay, this person knows how to spell March. So that's another way to remove all those unnecessary or those pesky mistakes that you always find. So you can kind of avoid having to re-enter or make the information appear. All right, so that's how you can get rid of all out of those error mistakes or autocomplete mistakes that you have whenever you're entering something. All right. Okay, so the next thing we have, the next tip we have is to correct or fix journal entries. So how do we go ahead and fix journal entries that we've already created? So what we're going to do is under financial and transaction, we're going to go back to the general screen, general window. And at the top here, you have the option to correct. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit correct here. It's going to ask me, what's the action do you want to do? Do you want to back out a journal entry, or do you want to back out a journal entry and create a correction entry? Of course, this is so that you don't have to go back and enter that transaction all over again. We're just going to go ahead and back out a journal entry, and then it's going to ask for the year. What's the year of the entry that you're trying to correct? So 2018 as 2017, and also you have the lookup here. So of course you can use the lookup to find the transaction. So I know which one I'm looking for, so I'm going to go ahead and type just Control L on my keyboard, and I'm going to find that transaction. So I know it was transaction 3449 or GL number 3449. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in, hit Tab, and I can find that in the list. So I was wrong. I was actually looking for 3451. But yeah, you can also scroll through, or you can alternatively just type in the journal number and it'll find that for you. So let's go ahead and just type that in, 3451. It's going to look through the list. It's going to find that journal entry for me. Once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and click select, and I'm going to come back to here, and I want this one to just back out the journal entry. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and it's going to populate that journal entry for me, and I can go ahead and make the corrections. And once I'm done, I'm simply going to go ahead and post this transaction. And you can see the report on our screen here to kind of show you that the journal entry has been complete. So yeah, so if you ever make a mistake, you can always...
There's only one problem with your tip, Sam.
What's that?
Just one problem. Accounting people don't make mistakes. So that's why that functionality isn't very commonly used.
I can see why it's not being used so well, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. My mistake, guys. I showed you the wrong tip. Yeah. All right, and the last tip we have is the ability to turn on colors for required field. So you'll notice in a lot of the screens that I have, any field which is required is essentially in red. Some of you may not have this. Some of you might just have a black, the text color of black for all your required fields. And of course, GP allows you the option to change that. So to do that, so if I want to change the color of the required field, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Microsoft Dynamics dropdown, go to User Preferences, and from here, I'm going to go and click the Display button, or Display option, sorry. And over here, I can change the color. So if I want the font color to be red or black, you can pick any color for the required fields as long as they're red or black. But you have all the options. And then of course the font style, how do you want it to be displayed? Do you want it to be just a regular style so it kind of blends in? Do you want it to be bolded, italicized, or bold and italic? All right, so I'm gonna just put red and bold because I think that usually works, but let's go ahead and change it. So let's make it black, and let's go ahead and change this to regular. Once I'm done, I'm gonna go ahead and hit apply. Okay, you can see the changes here. So this is what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save, click OK. If I back out and go to any screen where there's required fields, you'll see that it's now all those bolded fields, all those required fields are no longer red. They're actually the different color that I chose. So you can see all of those options there. All right. So those are the 10 tips, guys. So I think these are some of the tips that this essentially is a summary of all the tips that we've gone over. These are the tips that we find a lot of are not being used a lot, except for number 9, of course, because I know that it's not a real tip, I guess. But yeah, so these are all the tips. This is a summary. So we went through printing windows, how to turn off those printing windows once you post a transaction, gaining access to the information using the homepage reminders, and how it basically allows you to jump right into the action and see what's going on. The access to quick links, keyboard shortcuts, which hopefully by the end of it, I think will be drilled down into a lot of you. At least the Alt P or the Alt Delete will be very helpful, I find, or even the Alt S, which is for saving. The ability to copy GL transactions and paste them from Excel directly into GP. The ability to create reports that you run over and over again with the same filter. So, again, if I want to see a report as to how I'm doing in a particular month, you can create that report and just, even save it into your home tab, so you can quickly jump right into it and see how your company is doing for that month. The ability to easily create dates within any window using either the plus or the minus on the keyboard, or just simply typing in two digits or 4 digits to kind of have to avoid having to enter those information over and over again, fixing any of the autocompleters or something that you basically want to hide, correcting or fixing journal entries, and lastly, turning on changing the color of the required fields in GP. All right. With that being said, I'm going to pass it back to John.
All right. Thanks, Sam. You killed it. Thank you for those tips. Maybe I should mention that in case anyone's furiously taking notes, this is going to be recorded, and we're going to post the recording in the resources section of our site. So no worries there. We'll make sure that all of you get a copy of the link once it's posted. Usually it takes about a week or so to get it online. So hang tight, and we'll post that soon. So let's move on. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this event because I'm pumped that we're co-hosting with E1. So for those of you who are not familiar with E1, they make arguably the best add-ons for Microsoft Dynamics GP. They make one product in particular that's called Smart List Builder. That's something that I would say probably 80% of our customers are using. Jason, I don't know if you want to maybe give a quick overview of why Smart List is so powerful.
Yeah, so for sure, the Smart List Builder is essentially an enhancement to Smart List Designer, but it brings a whole wealth of capabilities that you can't do with native functionality in GP. Some examples that are just right off the bat is calculated fields can be built in line. You can do summary reports, so roll-up. If anybody's familiar with using Smart List Designer, you're kind of stuck with the flat list type of presentation. It's not really, you can't build pivot tables or anything like that inside of it. With Smart List Builder, you can create roll-ups and you can report at a summary level. The part that really gets people excited and what we're going to concentrate on the demo is Excel Report Builder, which is a part of Smart List Builder. And essentially what it does is it allows you to take those smart lists and create Excel files from them, but with live data connections back to the GP database. So you can imagine how that would be super powerful, right? If you had, for example, a really complicated smart list, and then you built, from that you built some pivot tables and charts and graphs and all that kind of stuff. The problem with smart list natively is every time you run it, you have to recreate all of that because they won't. You have to do a fresh export. With Excel Report Builder, you can do all of that work and save the Excel file with the live data connection, and then every time you open the report, it will update. So even your charts and graphs and pivot tables and everything will update automatically, and then you can of course embed those in web pages and SharePoint and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really powerful reporting tool, and I'm excited to present with them next week.
Yeah, so for those of you that are using it and you want to make sure you're getting the most out of it, make sure you join. We're going to be, like I mentioned, co-hosting with E1, so they're going to have some cool tricks as well as the proprietors of the software. But even more exciting than the actual session is, for anyone who has not bought it, we're giving away $500 off of Smart List Builder or Smart View. So for anyone who joins, just let us know after the session if you'd like to purchase, and we'll provide a coupon code to get $500 off Smart List Builder or Smart View. And because the product's not too expensive already, that's a pretty substantial amount off. But there is only about 10 spots left. So if everybody on today's session goes to sign up, there isn't going to be enough spots available because of the GoToWebinar maximums. So we'll have to do another session if it fills up. Either way, it's one that you don't want to miss. Now, I need everybody's help. So we've been doing these for a while, and it's not that we're running out of ideas, but we'd like to hear from you guys. So if anybody has an idea for a future webinar, we would love to hear from you. So you can type it in a question, you can email us at info@gp365.ca. If we decide to use your idea, we'll be giving you a gift card just as a thank you. So let us know, any topics that are out there. We'd love to try and do something that maybe you haven't seen elsewhere. There's not a lot of material on. Let us know. And we'll be doing it, I guess, in April. So let's move on to the next slide. And last slide. So our blogs, as I mentioned, we're going to be posting the recording for today, and where that's going to be posted is the link that you're seeing on the PowerPoint there. Alternatively, you can just go to gp365.ca and then click resources. We try and post one blog a month, and also we do 2 webinars typically a month, and all of those are posted in our resources section. So check back there for some super corny cartoons that I love, and some great material regarding GP. And the last thing I'll leave you with, for everybody who joined who's a current customer, a big thank you. We really appreciate the support. For anyone who is not, if you're happy with your GP partner, great. I'm not going to throw them under the bus. But if you are open to options and you'd like to see what else there is out there, I'd love the opportunity to show you how good we are and why we've won the awards we have. We're super passionate about this product, and we really appreciate the support. So that's the end of my sales plug before somebody pulls the mic away from me here. Jason, maybe I'll pass it over to you to review the questions.
The questions. Yeah, there's quite a few questions. We'll kick the salespeople out now and go through those. Okay, so I'm going to try to, because some of them are repeats here, so I'm going to do my best to try to get all of them. If I miss for whatever reason, I apologize in advance if that happens, but please feel free to reach out to us directly, and we'll get your question answered. But I think I got them all. So the first one is there a good listing of common keyboard shortcuts? I think a couple of people have asked that. Is there a sort of resource somewhere where they can go and get that? So Sam, guess what that means? That means you get to write a blog, my friend.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're going to do, since that seems to be a popular question, is we're going to post a blog with them on our website, and we'll distribute that to everybody that's on the call today once we have it done, which should be in the next day or two. So we'll post that up for everybody, and we'll send a link to everybody on this webinar. So I think that's 1, 2, 3 I got there. So next question is, when you're correcting a journal entry, can you edit the description from saying back out journal entry to say something else? The answer is yes. So what it does when you click the button to back the journal entry out is it basically creates the transaction, but you can edit it from there. So you're not stuck with what it says or even the amounts for that matter. You could alter them. It's just kind of a quick shortcut so that you don't have to manually type everything in, but you're not locked down to what it comes up with. So you're able to edit it and put a different description in for sure. And I think there was another one related to this, so let me see if I can find it. When you back out an entry, it backs out the original and you can correct data at the same time. So that is the second option, the one that Sam didn't show, where it says back out entry and create correcting entry. So what that will do is it will create not only the reversing entry, but a new blank copy of the original transaction. So for example, if you put the wrong amount or something like that, it will give you the chance to repost it without having to enter it again by just going and changing the amounts. So that's the purpose of that one. And I'm sorry, I just got to scroll here. So we got some topic ideas. Next question, how do I format Excel for entry in GP? I think, Sam, let's put that in our blog as well. But here is the format. So it's basically 4 columns. The first one is your distribution reference, which is optional, by the way. You don't need to populate anything in there. The second column has to be the account, and the fourth and fifth have to be debit and credit, and that's what it's expecting. So those are the formats. But we'll also put this in our blog, and we'll make sure that we get that link out to everybody as well. Okay, let's see. there a way? Okay, is there a way to add analytical accounting to a transaction posted from the purchasing subledger after it has been posted? Besides doing a journal entry, and obviously if you do that, that journal entry is not going to be tied back to the subledger, so that's the reason that is being asked. Unfortunately, I think the answer is no. If you want to have that tie back to the subledger, really the only way to do that is probably to void the transaction from payables transaction entry or purchasing receipts transaction, wherever it's coming from. And that way it'll void it all the way through to the GL, but it'll also void in the subledger. But of course, then you need to re-enter it. So I don't think there's an easier way around that, but maybe we'll take offline, and if we can find something, we'll get back to you. We've got your name. But I think the short answer is I don't think so, but we'll double check. Is it next is sorry. There's a couple of people that are reporting just sort of issues with their screens, and maybe probably best for us to work offline with you just because it's hard to diagnose. Somebody's having a problem with Windows not expanding. So we'll probably get back to you about that one directly. Now we have a bunch of topic ideas. And I'm just checking. I think that was the last one.
That means I get to do the gift card giveaway.
Yeah, one more second. Can you correct entry using method suggestion from a period that's already closed? So the question is, can you use the correcting entry method if the period is closed? The answer is yes, it will create the transaction, but it will not let you post it until you open the period. So if you have a closed period, you still do need to open it before it'll actually let you post. But it will let you select the transaction, and it will create the journal entry, and you'll be able to save it, but you won't be able to post it until you open the period. And I think that was the last one. So anybody that didn't get answers, please email us. For those of you that I said we'll take it offline and we'll get back to you, we definitely will, so you'll hear from us. And if you come up with any questions down the road, please feel free to email us. John, you can go ahead and give away that gift card.
All right, I'm going to make it rain here. Maybe just a quick note to Sam. Sam, if you don't mind, can you put my email address under the any questions? Just modify the slide. So jposan@gp365.ca. Okay, so the first gift card is going to Jana P. The second gift card is going to Yasmin M. M as in Mary. The third gift card is going to Linda K. And the last gift card, but definitely not the least, is going to Lucy P. So big thank you to everybody. Everyone whose name I mentioned, you're going to hear from me probably tomorrow morning or today, depending how the rest of today goes, with your gift card. So, thank you everybody again. Jason and Sam, really appreciate it. My email's on the screen. If you need anything, let us know. We'd love to work with you, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Go sign up for that webinar. Thanks, everybody.